Hello everyone, this is part 12 on how to make a shooter game in Scratch. This is the final part of this entire series, and in this video I will be going through all of my code in every single one of my sprites, and I will explain how it works. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 11 yet, make sure to check them out. Links are in the description below. Also, I share this project on my Scratch account, so check that out. Link is also in the description below. Anyways, I will first do a playthrough of this game just to show you guys the complete gameplay. So, when we start, there is our menu, and we click the start button. Then it goes to our game, and we can shoot. And if I press 2, it switches to the machine gun, so that shoots faster. And right now we are at wave 2. So the waves increase every like 10 seconds. So yep, now we're on wave 3. And for every wave, the zombies go a bit faster. So yeah, every time I kill a green zombie, I get $1. And every time I kill a yellow zombie, I get 2. And when I kill a orange zombie, these are the really strong ones, I get 3. So yeah, now I will press P. This opens our shop, and as you see on the corner here, our boss appeared, because the boss appears on wave 5. So anyways, when I hover over the upgrade icons for our pistol, we can see the upgrade description and cost. So there's faster firing speed, which makes the pistol shoot faster, that costs 50 cash. There's increased bullet damage, which changes the damage from each pistol from 1 to 2, and that costs 100. And then there's increased knockback, so the pistol knocks back the zombies a bit, so that's 75. And then when we press the arrow over here, we get to the machine gun, and there's similar upgrades. So there's faster firing speed, makes the machine gun fire faster, that costs 75. We have increased bullet damage, it costs 200. And we have increased accuracy, which makes the machine gun shoot more accurately, and that costs 75. So yeah, these are the 2 pages of our shop. Anyways, I can't buy any of these upgrades yet because I don't have the money to do that, so I'll just get more cash by killing a few zombies. Alright, machine gun. Oh yeah, and the boss zombie spawns mini zombies, so the boss zombie has its minions. So yeah, I have enough cash to buy the faster firing speed upgrade, so I'll do that. Press P to exit the shop. Now the pistol fires a bit faster, as you can see. Okay, I'll try to kill the boss zombie. So, yeah. The boss zombie has, I think, 200 health. So, it's gonna take a while, but yeah. Now it's wave 7, so the zombies are much faster. Oh yeah, okay, we killed the boss zombie, great. Let's see. What can I buy now? I'll buy a machine gun upgrade. I'll make the machine gun more accurate, I guess. Let's see. Yep. And also, keep in mind, you can't buy the same upgrade more than once. I just made it like that to make the game more simple, but you can have an upgrade that can be bought multiple times. So if you want to make that, then you can do that. But anyways, yeah. Okay. We're on wave 8. Okay, I'm gonna probably save up for the faster firing speed on the machine gun. So I just need 4 more cash. And there we go. Can buy it. Now the machine gun shoots faster. Look at that. And I'll switch back to my pistol. And we're at wave 10. Great. Okay, I'll switch back to the machine gun. And also, one thing I did not add is that I don't have the boss zombie spawn like every 5 waves or something, but you could do that. But I only made the boss zombie spawn once. So yeah. We're on wave 12 now. Oh, I just lost a life. And okay, now we have 2 lives left. Okay, wave 13. You can see the zombies are much faster than the speed of the zombies at wave 1. Let's see, okay. Alright, wave 14. Okay. Oh yeah, and one more thing you could add in your game is to have some like text over here under the lives or something to show which gun you're currently holding. Like right now, it would show machine gun, and then like if I go to pistol, it would show pistol. So yeah, maybe you could add that. That would be a good addition to the game. Okay, what can I buy? Let's see. Okay, I already bought that. I will buy increased bullet damage for the pistol. So now it does 3 damage per shot, so it kills those green zombies in 1 shot. That's pretty good. So yeah, I will use my pistol for a while. And one more thing you could add is make the zombies spawn faster over time. Like right now, the zombies only get faster, they don't spawn faster. So you can decrease the spawn time as the wave increases. So yeah, I think that would make the game more fast-paced and difficult. Alright. Maybe add more types of zombies that spawn in later waves. Like have a blue zombie or something at wave 10 that maybe is invisible or something until it gets to a certain distance from you. That's just some ideas you can use. But yeah, let's see how long I can last. Alright, this is probably getting a bit boring for you guys to watch, so I'm just going to lose here. So yeah, now there's a you lost screen, and you can go back to the main menu and play again if you want to. But yeah, that's the whole game. Anyways, I will go through all of the sprites now and give an in-depth explanation for all of the code that I wrote. So yeah, let's start with the stage. So for the stage, I only have 3 things here. The first one is the when flag clicked. I broadcast to menu, which is pretty much this menu here, right here. So what the menu broadcast does is that it signals everything that's supposed to show up in the menu to show. So for example, like in the stage itself, when it receives menu, which is called when the flag is clicked, then it switches to the backdrop of backdrop 2, which is this one right here. And when it receives start, which is broadcasted by the start button over here, then it switches to backdrop 1, which is this one. So yeah, on to the player, and I'll actually rename these sprites as I go. I realized that I didn't name any of these sprites, so I'm going to rename these for more clarification. So I'll call this player. And let's see, so when the flag is clicked, then it hides. This is just as a precaution. Like, even though it hides at the menu, just in case, I just want to hide it when the flag is clicked. So yeah, let's see. When it starts, so when the start button is clicked, then the player shows. As you can see here, there's a player, and it sets cache to 0. There's 0 cache here, and it points direction in 90 degrees. So that means it points to the right. So I'll show you. It points to the right for a split second, but then it follows your mouse pointer. So actually, this here is not really important, but it's just to make it look better, I guess, because, for example, if the player was rotated over here, then there'd be like a weird jerking motion of the player when I place my mouse pointer here, because it would suddenly rotate from this angle to like this angle if that's where my mouse pointer is. So yeah, that was a bit confusing, but to summarize, this doesn't really matter. So yeah, I'll still put it in though. And when it starts, it also goes through this position here, x negative 150 and y 4, and then it runs this forever loop. So first, before it runs anything in the forever loop, it always checks, is the shop open? Because if the shop is open, then we want the player to not do anything, right? Because we want the game to be paused while the shop is open. So otherwise, if the shop is not open, that means we're in the actual game. So the player points towards the mouse pointer. I'll show you. Like this, it points towards the mouse pointer over here. And it switches costume to the gun we have. And the gun here is our variable. And right now, when we start, the gun is the pistol. So it switches costume to the pistol costume right here. And then when we press 2, that switches to the machine gun, and the costume, as you can see, is switched to the machine gun. So yeah. And we also set the damage of the gun based on the gun we have. So if we have the pistol gun, then it sets damage to pistol damage, which we set it to 2. And if the gun is the machine gun, then we set the machine gun damage. We set the damage to the machine gun damage, which is 1. And I'll tell you later why it's important that we have the variables pistol damage and machine gun damage instead of just 2 and 1. So now we go down here. If key 1 is pressed, set gun to pistol. If key 2 is pressed, set gun to machine gun. That's what I just did. And these are the arrow key presses, and it changed the X and Y position. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Now let's go to this start here. So when we start, it sets all of these values, all of these variables to a value. So yeah, I could actually just put this set cache here also in here so that it's more organized. And so the reason I have wait until not mouse down is so that since the mouse goes down when you click the start button, you want it to make sure that when the player releases the mouse button, that it doesn't shoot or something. So yeah, as you can see, if I take this out, then what happens is that when I click the start, it shoots once, as you see here, as you see over there, because this immediately checks if the mouse is down when I receive start. So we want to add that back in. And of course, we have our if shop open equals no. So if the shop is not open, then when the mouse is down, it creates a clone of sprite 2, which is the bullet. And there is a delay based on your gun. So if you have a pistol, then it waits like, let's see, pistol, where is that? Pistol firing speed. It waits 0.3 seconds. And if you have a machine gun, then it waits 0.1 seconds. So yeah. Next up, we have when T key is pressed. This is just for playtesting. So pretty much when you press the T key, then you just get 10 cash. So yeah. And also for this, when I receive lose. So when the player dies, then all the scripts in the player just stop. And there's no way to start these scripts again until it receives the start message, which obviously comes from the start button. So yeah. Next up, and lastly for the player, we have this one. And this again checks if the shop is not open. Then it detects if it's touching sprite 3, sprite 14, or sprite 15, which are the 3 zombie sprites here. This one, this one, this one. Then it changed lives by -1, and it waits 0.5 seconds. This is so that we don't instantly lose all 3 of our lives when we touch one zombie. So we have this 0.5 seconds as a delay. So yeah. And the reason I have these 3 for loops as a separate script here, like there's 3 separate when I receive start scripts, is because 2 of these have wait blocks in there, and if we put these forever loops all under one single whenever receive start, or one single forever loop, then the rest of the code over here, which runs instantaneously, would not run until the wait seconds block is done waiting. So, for example, if I put this mouse down if statement into the forever loop over here, like for example at the end, then every time I want to shoot, it would only update the player's movement after I waited the 0.3 seconds or the 0.1 seconds based on the firing speed of the gun. So like it would be really choppy and stuff. That's why we need a separate forever loop for this shooting. So yeah, next up is the bullet. I will rename this. And let's see, when flag is clicked, hide. This is just a precaution. Whenever you lose, stop all other scripts in the sprite. Also, when the player loses, then the bullet stop. Whenever receive menu, then hide. Yep, and delete this clone. So any clones of this sprite here will be deleted. And when I receive start, I set my value, so machine gun accuracy, to 8. And I can actually just put this in the player, so I will just do that. So in the player, I'll set machine gun accuracy to 8. Alright. Now for the bullet, when I start as a clone, then it does all this stuff. And the player, remember, creates clones of the bullet when the mouse is down. So every time the player creates a clone of the bullet, then the code in here runs. So the first thing the bullet does is go back 99 layers, which means go to the very back of everything you have except for the stage. So it would go behind the player, or like under the player, and it would show and go to the player, and it checks if the current gun of the player is a pistol. Then it just points in the direction of the player. So right now the player is over here, then it points in that direction, and yeah, and it also sets a speed of the bullet, so it sets it to 20, and it checks if the gun is a machine gun, then it points in the direction of the player also. However, since we have this little like a randomness of the machine gun, it chooses a random number between the accuracy of the machine gun, which we set it to 8 at first, times -1, so -8 to 8. So the bullet is chooses a position, a direction of -8 to 8, and that is added to the direction of the player. So that's why we have this randomness of the gun, and it sets speed to 12, so the machine gun bullets are actually slower than the pistol bullets. And then after that, it moves 25 steps. So given the direction of the bullet, it then moves forward 25 steps. So that's about like from here to here. And I add that in because the player, as you see, is centered on the circle. So the bullet would also spawn in the center here. But since we want the bullet to spawn on the nozzle of the gun, then we want the bullet to move forward a bit, which is 25 steps. So that's why I added that. And then this loop runs until it touches the edge or any of the zombies. So repeat until touching the edge of the screen or any of zombies. And it just moves forward the speed steps, which is either 20 or 12 given your gun. And it also checks if the shop is open or not. So if it's not open, then it runs. Otherwise, it stops. And then once it touches the edge or the 3 zombies, then it just deletes itself. So yeah, there's the bullet. Next up is the zombie. I'll just call this zombies, I guess. Yeah. First things first, we have a flag clicked, menu, and lose. These are pretty much for almost all of my sprites in here. So yeah. We have our start here. So when the game starts, then it waits 1.5 seconds. Then it checks if the shop is open or not, and if it's not open, then it picks a random number between 1 and 5. If it's 1, then it sets the zombie to strong. If it's 2, that sets the fast. Otherwise, set to normal. So pretty much out of every 5 zombies, one of them's going to be strong, one of them's going to be fast, and 3 of them's going to be normal. And then it creates a clone of itself. So every 1.5 seconds, it generates a random zombie, and then it creates a clone of it. So when it creates a clone of itself, this code runs over here, because that's when I start as a clone. And then it switches costume to the zombie type, which are normal, strong, fast. So yeah, and if it's then it sets the lives based on the zombie type, and then it goes to X position 250, which is like over here somewhere, past the edge of the screen, and Y position of a random all the way under here to over here, about. And then it runs this forever loop. If the shop is not open, then it points towards the player. I'll show you, just like this. It points towards the player over here, right? It's pointing towards the player. And it moves based on the zombie type. Like right now, there's this fast zombie, so it moves 3 steps plus the wave times 0.2 steps. So it moves 3 steps, which is the base amount of steps, but with an additional of your current wave you're on times 0.2. So that's what makes the zombies move faster and faster every wave. Because if you're on wave 1, it only moves 3.2 steps, but if you're on wave like 10, it moves 3 plus 10 times 3 plus 10 times 0.2, which is 5, so it would move 8 steps. Or actually, sorry, 3 plus 10 times 0.2 is 2, so that'd be 5 steps. So yeah, yep, next up, in the forever loop, it checks if it's touching the bullet, then it waits 0.1 seconds. This is so that it ensures that the bullets disappear first before the zombie disappearing. Now this is just for precaution, so yeah, it's best if you add this in. And then it changes the zombie lives, which is a private variable, so each individual clone can hold a different value of this. So it changes that by the damage, which is from the player, over here, as you see, the pistol or machine gun. So it changes his lives by damage times -1, right? And then it has this little brightness effect thing. It just turns bright for 0.05 seconds, and then it goes back to its original brightness effect. And then after that, it checks if the zombie's life is less than 1, then it drops the cache based on your zombie type, and then it deletes itself. And otherwise, so if the zombie lives is not less than 1, then it's gonna run the if statement under it. So if the gun is pistol, then it gets knocked back from the pistol knockback. So it moves a negative amount of steps. So it moves like backwards. So yeah. Next up is the wave, or like more like a, what should I call this? I'll call this like player information or something. Player info, I guess. I'll call it like that, I guess. Okay, so when flag is clicked, hide when I receive show. Okay, so for the when I receive show, this is broadcasted from the shop. So what the show thing does is that when I press P, the shop broadcasts show, which means that the shop is showing now. And the reason I want this to go to front is because I have this white screen here that has this like slight ghost effect, and I want to make sure that it shows in front of the screen here. And I don't think this screen is showing. One sec. Let's see. Okay, let me try it again. 1 second. Okay, that's weird. Okay, this white thing is not showing. I will add a show in front of this. Should be good. Alright, it shows now. Okay, that was a problem. So, as I said before, there's this white screen thing that shows when you open the shop, right? And then it hides when the shop is closed. Just as like a decoration, I guess. So I just want this thing, the player info, to show above this white screen. Otherwise, it would be behind it, and it would look like this. It would look sort of faded. So that's why I want it to go to front, and it's going to look better. So yeah. Next up, we have when I receive menu, then hide. And then when I receive lose, then stop it. So yeah. Next up, when I receive start, then it shows. So when the game is started, it shows set lives to 3, and then it switches costume to the lives plus 1. So as you see here, this costume number, this costume is called 3, this costume is called 2, this costume is called 1, this costume is called 0, and the number is based on the number of lives you have. So this costume is called 3 because I have 3 lives. So switches costume to the lives plus 1, and if the lives is less than 1, which means the player is dead, then it broadcasts lose, which, as you've seen before, makes all of the other sprites stop, like in this one, and this one. So it broadcasts the lose, and then it stops its own script. Next up, I have the numbers for the number of cash you have, so I'll just name this cash. And when the flag clicked, hide. When I receive lose, stop. When I receive menu, hide. Deletes all clones. And then when I receive start, this is the start of the game. Then we set a variable called digits to 1, create 30 clones, and then it changes digits by 1. So let's see. Digits is a private variable. So each clone has a different value of the digits variable. So when the clone is created, then it shows, goes to front, sets size to 120%, so it's a bit larger, and then it goes to its digit multiplied by 17 minus 222. So that's its X position, and it goes to the Y position of 132. So what this does is that I'll show you, I'll just increase my cache here to like, okay, 182. So this number being multiplied here is its spacing. So let's say if you have, if you change this to like 30, then the numbers are more spaced out. So if you change this to like 7, then the numbers like squish together. So yeah, 17 is a good number. And the minus 222 is the overall position of all of these digits. So let's say I change this to 0. This can go in the middle of the screen here. If I make this negative 200, that means it adds 200 because minus negative 200 is plus 200. So it goes to the right of the screen. So yeah, let's change this back to 222. And we should be good. Next up is, let's see. There's an if-else statement to see, it checks the length of the cache variable we have here, which is 182. And since each individual clone here has its own variable of digits, right? It's going to check, since the length of cache is 3, all clones with the variable digits of less than 3, which is clones number 1 and 2, are going to show and switch costume over here to the letter of the digits of cache, which means their current clone number, which is clones 1, 2, and 3 of the digits 1, 8, and 2. Otherwise, they all hide. So yeah, this is sort of confusing to explain, but I explained this a bit better and more elaborately in one of my other videos, how to make a clicker game. So you can check out that video, I guess, if you want a more detailed explanation. But yeah, I'll leave it here for now. Next up is the shop. Alright, when flag is clicked, hide. When it's lose, stop with the script is right. When it's menu, then hide. Now, in this here, we have a Y velocity variable, and what this does is that the Y position of the shop always changes by its Y velocity variable, which right now is 0, but however, when P is pressed, as you can see there, it sort of speeds up and then it slows down in like the Y position, which gives this like little cool effect. So yeah, it's not really obvious, but as you can see, like at the end, it sort of slows down and it sort of speeds up when the shop is closed. So yeah. So first, we have a variable called done, and we have that is because we don't want it to like glitch out when we press P a lot of times. So yeah. Alright, so when the key P is pressed, then it checks, is the shop open? If it's not open, then it sets shop open to yes, and then it broadcasts show, which is over here, and if the shop open is yes, such as right now, then when we press P, it sets shop open back to no, and then it hides, like this. So now, I will explain to you what show and hide does. When it shows, it sets done to no, and it goes to the front of the screen, and then it does the Y velocity thing. So it sort of speeds up and slows down in the Y position speed. And then I set Y velocity to 0.000000. That is because I want it to be as accurate as possible for the Y velocity. And sometimes when I set it to just 0, there might be still some like numbers like 0.00247 like or something like that in the decimal place. So I sort of went overkill, and I just added tons of zeros to make sure that it's extremely accurate. Then I set done to yes. And for the hide, it's pretty much the same thing. I have a bit different Y velocity thing, but it's really similar. And it goes to the very bottom of the screen. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Next up, this is the I'll call this the shop background, I guess. Shop background screen. And what this does is when it starts, it shows, but it's invisible. That's what the ghost effect is. So when it's set to 100, then the thing is completely invisible. So right now, you can't see it. Even though it's there, you just can't see it because it's completely transparent. So we have the lose, and we have a menu. Then when we have the variables of show and hide from the shop, then we have the messages from the shop, which are show and hide. So when the shop is open and closed, it's going to broadcast the show and hide messages, right? And then the shop background screen receives this, and it sets the ghost effect to 60. So it makes it semi-transparent, as you can see here, like the white background over here. And when the shop hides, it goes back to completely transparent. So yeah, that's all it does. Next thing, I'll call this the, I don't know, shop gun page or something. So we have our normal menu, lose when flag clicked. Then when I receive show and hide, which again are broadcasted from the shop. Then it switches costume based on the shop screen +1. So I think the shop screen is changed by the arrow here. So yeah, we'll get to that later. But we have our shop screen is 0 right now. So that means we switch to the pistol costume. Since the number here is 1, since 0 plus 1 is 1, and if we click the arrow, then shop screen is going to be 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So the machine gun is going to be shown since this costume number is 2. So yeah. Then what this repeat does is that it sort of follows the shop when it does the animation of going up and down. So it goes to the X position and Y position of the shop with a bit of an offset in the Y. But it just follows the shop when it opens and closes. As you can see, it's following the shop. And yeah, it hides when the Y position is less than 180 for just to ensure that it hides. And then for the show, once it appears on the screen like this, it always switches costume to the shop screen +1. So this way, when I click the arrow, it updates the Okay, it's not working now because they detached it, but it's going to always update the costume of this when they change the shop screen. So yeah, and for the hide, it's essentially the same thing as a show, but without the switching costumes because it's going to hide. So it just follows the shop screen when it goes down. And yeah, next one up are the upgrade icons in the shop. So upgrade icons. We have our win flag clicked, when I receive menu, when I receive lose, and we have our when I receive start. So when the game starts, the original sprite is transparent, and then it creates 6 clones of itself. And when the clones are created, each clone will have a different clone number, right? Because this variable, which is private, or for the sprite only, is different for each clone. So clones 1, 2, and 3 are the pistol upgrade icons, and clones 4, 5, and 6 are the machine gun upgrade icons. And so they show or hide depending on the shop screen. So when the shop screen is 0, which is a pistol, these 3 show. Otherwise, in the machine gun, these 3 show. And this over here is the detection for the mouse X and Y. So when the mouse pointer here is in a specific range, then the clones are going to run this block over here, which is the upgrade block. And for example, let's go with clone number 1. So let's say our mouse is over here, right? Though our mouse X is greater than -115 and mouse X is also less than -61, which you can see the X position and Y position of the mouse over here, the mouse Y is, however, not less than -20, it's greater than -20. It's 17 right now. So it doesn't run this, but however, once we go in the range, once it's less than -20, then this upgrade block is run, and the clone number 1 passes 50 as the cost for the upgrade. So the description sprite, which is the next one I'm going to show you, switches costume depending on the clone number. So in this case, the clone number is 1, so it switches to the faster firing speed costume. And there's a slight brightness effect on the icon, and when the mouse is clicked, then it checks if the icon has been bought before. So if bought equals 0, which means the icon has not been bought before, then it checks, do you have enough money? Then if you do, then it changes your cash by the cost, and it changes depending on the clone number, by a certain amount. So in this case, since the clone number is 1, when you buy it, it changes pistol firing speed by -0.1. That means there's less delay, so that makes the pistol fire faster. And yeah, there's a check for every single clone number. And then at the end, it waits until the mouse is not down to ensure that there's only 1 click. And then it sets bought to 1, which means that the icon or the upgrade is bought. So yeah, this happens with all the other clones. And we see this else statement over here. So if the mouse is in any of these ranges, then the icon description shows and the icon is a bit brighter, right? But otherwise, if none of them are being triggered by the mouse, then the description is 0, which means the description costume is like the blank one, as you can see here. And there is 0 cost because they're not hovering over anything, and there's no brightness. So yeah, now next one, we have our show and hide block, which is triggered by the show and hide messages, which the shop broadcasts, depending on whether it shows or hides. And we see here, it just repeats 25 times, and it just follows the shop when it goes up and down, like this. It just follows it. So yeah, that's literally all it does. And yeah. So next up is our description sprite. Description. So we have our flag clicked, menu, and lost broadcasts. And then we have our show and hide broadcasts. So when it shows, then it switches costume to 0. and it just follows the shop again when it goes up. And it always switches costume to description +1. So that's where the upgrade icon, when you hover over it, sets the description, right? Based on its clone number. So, as I said before, clone number 1, when you hover over it, it sets its description to 1. And so the description switches costume to it +1. So that would mean it switches costume to 2, and that is the second costume over here. So it switches to faster firing speed. And yeah, it does the same for all the other ones. So since this increased bullet damage upgrade is clone number equals 2, that means it switches to costume number 3, which is increased bullet damage. And for the hide, it just follows the shop again when it closes, like this. So yeah. Next one is the arrow for the shop. Alright, so we have, our flag, menu, and lose. And when the game starts, it sets shop screen to NA. That just means the shop screen, there is no shop screen. And when it receives show, that means the shop is doing its animation and going up. Then it sets shop screen to 0, and if you remember before, that is the shop screen for the pistol. Then it waits 0.8 seconds, or just to make it look better, and then it shows, goes to front, goes here, and it constantly detects if it's touching the mouse pointer. If it is, it turns a bit bright. Then it detects if it's mouse down. If it is, then it checks if the shop screen is 1, but it's not, it's 0. So it goes to the else in here. Then it changes shop screen by 1. So that means now shop screen is 1. And yeah, waits until not mouse down. So it ensures only 1 mouse click every time. And then if we click again, it detects if shop screen is 1, which it is. Then it sets it back to 0, so back to the pistol. And then wait until not mouse down. And when it hides, that means when I press P again, then it sets shop screen to NA since there is no shop screen. So yeah. Next sprite is the start button. I'll call this start. So if I clicked hide, now when I receive menu, which can be achieved by either clicking the flag or dying. So when I receive menu, which is this, then it goes here. It starts completely transparent, as you can see here. When I start, it's invisible, but then it slowly gets more and more, less and less transparent. And then it always checks if it's touching the mouse pointer, then it gets a bit bright. And if mouse is down, then it broadcasts start, which starts the entire game. And it hides and stops the script, so you can't somehow trigger it again. And now for the lose, let's see. Once the player dies, then it's invisible, but then it shows up, and it switches to costume 2. There's 2 costumes on this, so yeah, costume 2. Then it does the same thing, so it checks if it's touching mouse pointer. If it is, then it goes to the menu, since it broadcasts menu, and then it stops the script. And since the menu is broadcasted, it goes to this script, and this script runs. So yeah, next up is the you lost screen. I'll just call this the lose screen. So if I clicked hide, we're going to receive menu, hide, we're going to receive lose. Then this shows, and then it starts invisible, but then it slowly gets visible, and yeah. However, it does not become completely non-transparent. It's still somewhat transparent, as you can see the things behind it. So yeah, next up is the boss zombie. So we're going to receive flag, lose, and menu, that stuff. And when I receive start, so when the game starts, then it waits 0.01 seconds. This is just to ensure that the wave somehow does not change to a 1 or something. It's just some precaution. Then so it waits until the wave equals to 5. Then the boss zombie shows, and then it starts boss stuff, which is this script here. And it constantly creates clones of the mini boss zombie things if the shop is not open. And yeah, it goes to a random Y position and X position of 240, which is on the edge here. And it forever points towards the player and moves 0.25 steps. And also when it spawns, it also checks if it's touching the bullet, the player bullet. Then, if it is, it changes its lives by the damage of the bullet. And if it has less than 1 life left, it drops 75 cash. And it stops everything in the boss sprite, and it stops this sprite. And then, yeah, that's it. And if the gun is a pistol, then it moves back some steps. So yeah, next up is the mini boss zombie sprites. I'll call this the boss zombie minions. How about that? And we have the when flag clicked, menu, and lose. And when it's created as a clone, which is from the boss zombie, over here, they go back 99 layers, so they go under the boss zombie. They switch costume to this one, and they have 3 lives. And then it goes to the X and Y position of the boss zombie, plus or minus like 10 and 15, just for some randomness. And if the shop is not open, then it points towards player and moves 2 steps. And it also checks if it's touching the bullet. If it is, then it changes lives by the damage of the bullet. And if it has less than 1 life, it drops 1 cash and deletes itself. And again, if the gun is a pistol, then it moves back. The pistol knockback amount. So yeah. Next up is the wave counter. So, wave number. And we have our menu and lose. And when it starts, it hides. And then it like initializes, so it sets to just a 1, wave to 1. And it creates 30 clones, and then when the clones are created, it's really similar to the cache number actually. It's pretty much the same thing. So the clones set their costume to the digit based on the wave number variable. And yeah, does all of that. And then also when the game is started, if the shop is not open, then it changes this variable called a timer by 0.1 every 0.1 seconds. But if the shop is open, then it does not change the timer. So yeah, there's another if statement to see if the timer is greater than 9.9. So if 10 seconds has gone by, then it changes wave by 1, and then it resets the timer. So yeah, this pretty much makes the wave change every 10 seconds. And lastly, we have this sprite, which is irrelevant to the game, but it's just part of my thumbnail for the project. So I'll just call this thumbnail. And yeah, this is not part of the game. I just wanted to have this, so when I click play and then click stop, this thing shows. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for this video. Our shooter game is finally complete after 12 videos on this series. Hopefully, you have created your own zombie shooter game and learned a lot. I have many other game tutorials on my channel, so make sure to check them out. I also have my Scratch games, along with this one, on my Scratch account. Anyways, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe too if you haven't already. That's it for this video and this entire series. See ya!